Hey, Gabe, back at it again with the plant bitches. Hey, Gabe, back at it again with the plant bitches. Let's get it rolling. So, GBT-06 came out like yesterday, but today for us because they just took forever to get our boxes. So, I'm going to be doing a GBT-06 Neo Nectar deck profile with a new Bloom support. So, the new starter is Peach Orchard Maiden Elmy, who's really nice for Bloom. It's GB1, move herself into the soul. If you have a Ranunculus Vanguard, pick a grade 2 or greater rear guard, which sounds weird, but just trust me, when we get to later cards, it'll be good. So pick the grade 2 or greater rear guard, clone it, and at end phase, bounce that card. So it works really well with Bloom, because Bloom, as we know, is on place through the ability. So you place it with Elmy, you bounce it, then you replace it on your next turn, so you can use the Bloom from that card twice. So also, again, you know, just about cloning, you got Ahsha's stride bonus. You're probably going to want your starter at 2, so 2 Elmy. Next, my trigger lineup is the same actually for my last one. So 4 Maiden of Daybreak, because the Bloom stand really not that worth it, honestly. And so Daybreak, on call, move to top deck, pick 1 card, 2 cards with that name, get 5k shuffled, Daybreak back into the deck. 4 heals being Fairy Light Dragon. 8 criticals being Flower, Garden, Maiden, Mylis, which is the Ranunculus crit move into soul plus 5k, draw
Flower,
1.
Maiden, Mylis.
Gross. And lastly, the crit Maiden of Dimorphotheca that came in the 3rd G trial deck. On the grade 1s, again, it is a G deck profile, so you're going to be, it's a G deck, so you're going to probably be running 4 stride fodder, which is the Eminita Tokoha Sig. So, I just love this one. Like this card.
Toko's garbage.
Oh, shut up, Leon. Next GBT-06 card is Pure Maiden Katrina, who I replaced Pia for, who's really nice. What she does is Bloom, so when she's on rear guard and you place another Katrina, up to 5 copies, so if you switch to Katrina's name, so 5 copies of Katrina all get plus 4k. So call, stride, clone, GB1 4k, call into the Katrina. Both of these activate. It's not one if you saw Tokoha with Greenshot Elf in one of the more recent episodes. So both of these activate. So first, call Bloom 4k, call double Bloom, so 888, so this is at plus 8. These are at 12, so because of this card, you can make some pretty dumb columns. So
and bring in the hurricane.
Yeah, when you
Katrina.
when you call all 4 of these, you're gonna rock them like a hurricane. Next, my last grade 1, which is the new Bloom PG Cherry Blossom Blizzard Maiden Lilga, who I run her for 2 reasons. One is because, well, 3 actually. I run her because if you saw my last deck profile, I ran 100% orange because the deck isn't counterblast heavy. So there's no real reason to run an unflip PG. Her Bloom ability, though, is part of why I love her. It's a Bloom, counterblast 1, bounce all copies of Lilga. So you call her if you want to make like a rush number, like that column, then you stride, clone her from deck with Ahsha's stride bonus, then you use the Bloom ability, counterblast 1, and bounce them. You just searched for a perfect guard. Also, it's not just her ability, but it's also the fact that it's a Bloom ability. And we have a card that you're going to see later that searches for cards with Bloom abilities. So it effectively makes her a pseudo-searchable PG. So if you're running a Bloom deck, Lilga is a must. Grade 2s, running 4 copies of Greenshot Elf, which is part of why I run Elmy. She works like Katrina, which is GB1 Bloom. When you play a copy of Greenshot Elf, all 5 copies of Greenshot get 2k and the ability to boost. So you have one in the back, you call, you Bloom, plus 2, and these can boost, so you can like make this a reasonable column because she has boost, which is really nice because...
Just call 4 of them.
Exactly. Bloom even more, Bloom even more. Now you have ridiculous numbers because these all get 2k for each one that bloomed, so call nothing, Bloom 2-2, Bloom 444, Bloom 6666. There you go. So Greenshot Elf can help make ridiculous numbers, so I love her. Then the card that replaced a card we didn't think we would replace. Remember Maiden of Flower Screen? Not anymore after Ideal Maiden Thuria. Thuria is...
Because she's the ideal replacement for Flower Screen.
kill yourself. But basically, Thuria is a fantastic card. She works amazing with Bloom, though she isn't a Bloom card herself. What she does is, it's a continuous on-call, which is weird, but I'll explain why that's really good for her. When she's placed on rearguard, pick a rearguard. Thuria's name is Thuria gains that name, so it's not a name change like Flower Screen. It's a name gain. So like Stride, if you use Thuria's ability on Elmy, she would be Thuria and Elmy. But because it's a continuous, when she is placed with that name. So let's say you had Katrina, you call her and you use her ability. Because she is technically placed as Katrina, you can use Katrina's Bloom ability. And she also makes really good combos, which I'll show you later on, which actually seems like it might be breaking some rules, so it's a confusing ruling question that I know I had issues with, but I'll go into it later. And also, Flower Screen is until end of turn. Her name change is permanent. So let's say your opponent retired your Katrina after using an ability. If you still have her, you can still use a card that Superior calls to get a Katrina out because she's still Katrina. And her other GB1 is just another great reason as to why I love her. It's at the beginning of your main phase, pick a card with this name. Remember, it's a name game, so you could pick a Thuria or the card that you turn Thuria into. Pick a copy of that card from your drop zone, shuffle it into your deck, bounce Thuria. So remember Thuria's ability. You do that, you re-bloom, and you have another clone target that you just put back into your deck. So Thuria completely and utterly invalidated Flower Screen. I adore Thuria. She makes this deck so much better. And I'm just going to keep her up to the side because there's a combo that I'm going to explain to you later. And lastly, last grade 2 is still 4 copies of Maiden of Gladiolus, the Amber clone, 1 boosted, Counterblast, 1 clone. I'm not a huge fan of Soliana. I think Gladiolus gets the job done better. But, you know, if you're playing Soliana, it's fair. I can get why. That's just not how I'm rolling with this deck. So, yeah. For Gladiolus. Next onto the grade 3s, what's also changed quite a bit, is my new backup is Cornflower Flower Maiden Ines, which I really wish they kept as a Centauria Flower Maiden Ines, but whatever. This is she's the reason why I run 4 copies of Lilga. First is her on-ride ability, which is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, check top 5 for a Bloom card, add it to your hand. I never want to ride her, but if I do, that's a nice backup, especially because I can potentially search for a PG. Secondly, the reason why I do run her is her Rearguard ability. It's another Bloom card, so you call her, you Bloom. So when you Bloom, all copies of Ines get the ability, at the end phase, move Ines to the bottom of your deck, check top 5 for a Bloom card, add it to your hand. So if you didn't get a PG in your triple drive and you think you need one, she gives you the option to get that PG from the top 5 if you missed it, which comes in handy so much. And another reason why I love her is she helps make this deck function better against control decks. You're playing Link Joker, she's your front row, don't have a front row to lock anymore. You're playing Cogro, less retire targets, and you're not really losing resources because you're still most likely getting something. So I adore Ines. I was able to beat my friend's Messiah deck because of her, because I was able to keep putting away my front row to protect myself from locking. So Ines is great, and it's a definite for to run if you're running Bloom. And lastly is the main grade 3 Ranunculus Flower Maiden Ahsha with the new secret rare from GBT-06 that I got, who I love the art for, where if you don't know, GB2, all of your rearguards get the ability, if you have another copy of this unit, plus 5k, so you got 2 Gladioluses, they get plus 5k. And her stride bonus, so when your unit strides on top of her, Counterblast 1, pick a rearguard, clone it, and that unit gets plus 2k. So again, it's a Ranunculus build, gotta run 4, and I still adore her secret rare art. I'm so glad I was able to get a copy of her. Lastly, onto the G zone. We're running 1 copy of Flower Princess of Spring Arborea, which is the on-hit Superior Call card with plus 2, clone a card with plus 2k. Next grade 4 is Sacred Tree Dragon Multivitamin Dragon, who is when your card is placed on rearguard, all other copies of it get 5k, so call Gladiolus, call another Gladiolus, this one gets plus 5k. I still run her, so run Multivitamin because it works stupid well with Bloom. Let's say I have a Katrina, I stride onto Ahsha, Ahsha's stride skill, call Katrina. Katrina's Bloom +4, Multivitamin +5. Call another Katrina, double Bloom 888, skill +5 again. So Multivitamin just works stupidly well with Bloom, so I'm really glad that it's really worth running at least a 1-up if you're playing a Bloom deck. Next, I have now upped it to 4 copies of Dream Spinning Ranunculus Ahsha, including 1 SP, which is Act Persona Flip, pick a rear guard. If you have 2 copies of that rear guard, your entire front row gets 5k. So, and that's not pick your front row rear guards, they get 5k. It's an ability for Ahsha that states your front row rear guards gain 5k. I'll explain why that matters later. And her effective GB3, pick a rear guard, clone it, the clone gets 2k. Now why her +5k to the front row matters is, let's say your field setup, this is a combo I love to make. Let's say you got 2 Katrinas in the back, 2 Gladioluses. What you can do, her skill, 14k to the Vanguard, Gladiolus skill, pay cost, clone Gladiolus, 21 to Vanguard. Because of the +5 here, this is still 21, use its skill to call your last copy of Gladiolus, and get a 14, or if you get a stand trigger, go back to 21. So she makes really nice like rush plays for quick power-ups, and she's really, really nice. I upped her to 4 because of the cross stride that we got in the set that I also love. So lastly, it is the 8 main stride, Ranunculus and Glorious Bloom Ahsha. I'm still looking for my last copy, so I'm running another multivitamin in its place, so, because the set came out yesterday, but I'm definitely going to be running Ranunculus and Glorious Bloom at 2. What she does is counterblast 1, soul blast 1, flip face up any face down G unit. My usual target is Dream Spinning, but it's any face down. Pick a rear guard, clone it. Then all cards with that card name, so in this case all Gladioluses, get +5k for each face up Dream Spinning Ranunculus in the G zone. So let's say you first strode into Dream Spinning, you use your skill to give +5k to the front row. Then you go into Ranunculus, use your skill to G-flip, another Dream Spinning. You have 3 face-up Dream Spinning, so all of your Gladioluses gain +15k until the end of the turn, which is part of why I still run stands, because restanding these numbers can get stupid, especially if they're an actual Bloom rearguard. Then, if you have a copy of this unit, so remember, Stride gets heart name, so basically if you have another copy of Ahsha on the rearguard, this Ahsha gains +1 critical. The critical I don't use a whole lot, but it's a really nice panic button if I have it, so I love Glorious Bloom Ahsha. She's a fantastic card. She helped make this deck so much stronger, and she's amazing. I run 2 of her. And now I'm going to talk to you about the combo with Thuria. So because Thuria is a continuous ability, we all know in Vanguard you can't interrupt skills, but because Thuria is a continuous, this is the case that you kind of can. So let's say your field is, you have 2 copies of Katrina. You stride into Bloom, no stride skill, call Thuria. Thuria's ability to become Katrina's abilities activate. Dream Spinning Ranunculus and Bloom activates, pay cost, flip over Dream Spinning. Search your deck, then you can target Thuria, because remember Thuria is both Thuria and Katrina. You can superior call Thuria. But because Thuria is a continuous with her on-call ability, you can make her Katrina before you have to apply the power from Bloom. So what you can do, you use your skill to clone Thuria, Thuria's skill to become Katrina, this Bloom happens, then Dream Spinning applies the +15k to all of them, even the Thuria you just called, even though technically the target you chose to clone was Katrina. Was Katrina, but you called Thuria because this is Thuria and Katrina, and this is also Thuria and Katrina. So Thuria can make some pretty whack combos, not just in how good they are, but because of how confusing they can be. But Thuria is a fantastic card, so that's why I run 4 of her. Yeah, that wraps it up for the deck, I think. I love this deck. I have so much fun with it. In a way, it might have revitalized my love for this game. It's one of the most fun decks I've ever built, and honestly, and I adore playing it. If it suits your play style, please play it. I hope this, if you're having trouble thinking of a deck list, that this deck helped answer some questions, have a ruling answer, helped answer your questions, I hope maybe inspired you to build Neo Nectar. And yeah, this is Gabe signing off. Keep it real.